To the contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Mount Maunganui Borough Reclamation and Empowering Act Repeal Bill, third reading.
Call on Government and Local Order of the Day number 2.
Riccarton Bush Amendment Bill, third reading.
The Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, I'm very pleased to speak on this last stage of the Riccarton Bush Amendment Bill. So throughout the stages...
Order. The member must move it first before he moves to the third reading.
Mr Speaker, I so move.
And the title?
That the Riccarton Bush Amendment Bill be now read a third time. Yep. Yes, well, look, I tell you what, Parliament is one of those places where you learn something every day. And you could give me a list, Ruth, but if you were to write out what I don't know, then you'd be writing for the rest of your life, and therefore, for perhaps the first time in your life, gainfully employed. Can I just say, sir, that one of the features of this particular bill has been the speeches that members have made throughout its passage to date. And it is the sort of place that evokes a lot of good feelings from people because it is quite unique. And the story that goes with it is quite touching in many ways. So, sir, Riccarton Bush is a small remnant of the podocarp forest that used to cover most of the Canterbury Plains. And it exists because one of the first families to settle in Canterbury post-European times were the two Deans brothers, James and John Deans, and they came to Canterbury, having previously been in the Wairarapa, to look for a land that was suitable for a sheep farming operation. Sadly, James Deans died in a drowning accident trying to move some sheep to shore fairly soon after the brothers had come to Canterbury. And John laboured on for another about 10 years, I think, setting up the property before he returned to his native Scotland to marry his fiancée, who we know as James Deans. She was Jane McElwraith. And they came then back to New Zealand, but he caught what is described as a chill crossing the Isthmus of Panama and died within about 6 months of them arriving back at Riccarton. So it was really Jane Deans, Jane McElwraith, who did such a splendid job in developing that estate over a period of time, and then her son, John Deans too, after her. So the other point that's useful to note in this is that the Deans brothers became fairly fluent in Te Reo Māori, and the lease that they had is till this day recognised by Ngāi Tahu as being a very genuine document, and it gave them a leasehold over a radius of 6 miles from the site of the Riccarton house today. And it was when the European settlement in a big way began in 1850 that the property began to become split up, and they eventually took up some holdings in the Melbourne Hills. So the contribution of that family to Canterbury has been enormous, and it will continue to be so. The trust today is chaired by Charles Deans, a descendant of the family, and the real gem that's there is not the splendid house that has survived the earthquakes, nor is it the first house that was built on the Canterbury Plains, nor the oaks that were planted from seed provided by Governor George Grey, but in fact the perhaps 1,000, 1,500-year-old bush that grows there today, just as it once did across most of the Canterbury Plains. So, sir, this piece of legislation updates several previous acts of Parliament that have seen the Trust survive since 1914, when the Deans family first gifted the bush to the city. From 1947, when the property was sold at a very reasonable rate, that's the remaining property to the city. And then, of course, through the amalgamation period of 1989, where they were put inside Christchurch City but remained as a separate trust entity. This bill protects that. The Christchurch City Council have done a great deal of work in ensuring that does happen. My association was as a trustee and then chair of the trust for quite some years, and we had a good relationship with the Christchurch City Council that saw proposals to turn the very historic home there into a sort of a wine bar nightclub, into the wonderful restored home that it is today, a piece of Canterbury's history, a piece of Canterbury's heritage, very well protected because of the work of the Trust. So I wish the Trust well in the future, commend this bill to the House, thank all the MPs who have taken such an interest in it, and look forward to its passage very shortly.
The question is that the motion be agreed to.
Mr.
The Honourable Ruth Dyson.
Mr. Speaker, it gives me a lot of pleasure to speak in support of the motion, and I want to begin by acknowledging